Sorry now because I'm apparently on low battery. I've never done YouTube. Apparently, the eats up a lot of battery and it stops when you're on low battery. Okay, so pre-response question. Very likely to get something like this on your now abbreviated um, AP exam. All right, but I was thinking about it last night as I was like, oh, man, I drew it once, and I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Mr. Clifford's, and I'm just copying it. But still, I'm like, oh, wait, now my ATC isn't hitting MC at its low point, or now it doesn't match up exactly where I want it to. So I went through it a couple times. Do I need to just do this by myself?
No.
I went through it a couple times, and here's how I think you're best off doing it. Here, swing over here. I think you're best off always starting. Well, obviously, start with your axes. And as that guy on the video, was saying, make sure you label everything. So silly to be wasting points or not getting points for not labeling stuff. Do a demand curve first. All right. Start with your demand curve. All right. The next thing you want to do is add in your marginal revenue curve. All right. If you do it this way, I'm actually going to swing this way. I'm going to move because I think it's just a little easier to get everything in here. I don't want you to fall and shatter. I think everything just kind of falls into place, or it's easier to place things so they look as they're supposed to look. Right. So after your marginal revenue curve, then try to do it halfway. Right. If it's not perfect, then no AP grader is going to sit there with a ruler. Right. Then throw in your marginal cost. Right. Because that's what sets everything up. Then you know that you're going to produce here, and they wanted that to be Q star. Okay, so make sure you do it. Make sure you make it what they want you to make it. Make it Q star. Right? Then you can take your price up here, right? And they want that to be price star, right? Price star. Okay, if you do that first, then you know exactly where you need to put in your ATC. Okay, so let's see what they want. We got our Q star, we got our price star. The area of economic profit completely shaded in. Now to do economic profit, that's where you need your ATC. All right, so if you tried to do that first, you might have thrown it off. Right, but now I know that I can put my ATC anywhere I want, because they told us this guy's getting profit, as long as I have it under price. All right, so I'll pick right here. That's good enough. And make sure, again, you come down until you hit marginal cost, and then you start on up. Okay, and that is your ATC. Now, how do we show profit? We know it's from whatever price this guy's charging down to ATC, and they ask you to shade that in. So make sure you shave it in. Shade it in. You can shave if you want. I'm not shaving right now because I barely leave the house. So there's your profit. Okay. Then it wants socially optimal. This we went through a bunch of times, right? Socially optimal, where marginal cost hits demand, right? Because if it's socially optimal, it's like perfect competition. This marginal revenue is the same thing as demand, right? It's Mr. DARP. So MC hits MR or demand. Okay, and that is, they want QS for socially optimal. So that's QS. Okay, again, socially optimal. Why? We went over this a few minutes ago. Because the price or the cost to make that item or that last unit to the producer is exactly the same as the willingness to pay. All right, after that, people are not willing to pay as much as it costs the guy to make, so there's no mutually beneficial trades. Everything stops right there. Right? Then it wants, assume the government gives them a lump sum tax. If they give them a lump sum tax, guess what changes? Nothing. The firm just goes, hey, thanks, Gov. You're awesome. I'm going to put this money in my pocket and screw the consumer. Their cable can still cost exactly what it costs because a lump sum tax is going to affect their fixed cost. If there was a fixed cost curve, that would change. It don't affect their marginal cost. So the magic spot, MC hitting MR, has not changed. All right? This means the government's stupid. If they really wanted this to change, they would have given them a per unit subsidy. They give them a per unit subsidy or something like that. That's going to change your marginal cost curve, right? But you give them a lump sum, they put it in their pocket, they take their wife out to dinner, and they go, ha ha, right? That's it. This doesn't change anything because it's not changing marginal cost. We screwed that one up. Or a lot of you screwed that up. Okay, hold on now. Increase, or instead of getting a subsidy, assume that they choose to require them to produce where they're earning zero economic profit. Okay, so if they're zero economic profit, means they're just breaking even. Means here, exactly what it cost them to make it is exactly what they're getting for it. All right, so that's where ATC hits the demand or hits price. So they wanted that to be, and again, that would come straight down, but just to be able to write it, that would be Q. What is it? R. They want that as QR. Okay, so what the monopolist would charge, socially optimal, if they were regulated to take this. And make sure you know that point. You could say it a couple different ways. They're earning normal economic profit, which means they're just breaking even, right? Which also you could say is they're getting a fair return, right? Because they're getting exactly what it's costing them, right? And that follows into the next question about their accounting profit. Their accounting profit's going to be positive because if you're just breaking even economically, you got to use the term, right? The accounting profit does not include the implicit costs, right? So the accounting profit is always going to be greater than your economic profit. Always, always, always. Economic profit is always going to be less than accounting profit or vice versa. So if you know your economic profit is equal or even or just breaking even, okay, therefore you must be making accounting profit, right? And then the last one says about, people learn that watching TV makes them smarter or whatever. So that's going to increase your demand. You increase your demand and what society wants is now greater, right? Now, however much that increases demand, whether people really start wanting TV or really wanting starting more TV, right? It's going to shift your optimal quantity to the right, right? It's going to increase demand. Socially optimal spot is going to increase. Okay, it's got to go up. All right, so that's the homework. And unless I run out of batteries, now we're going to try to do something new. All right, you still okay? All right, now we're going to try to do something new. So hopefully, and I'll write this on the Google Classroom before I post the video, right? Make sure you printed out those 2 sheets I sent you earlier, because this is new stuff and it's a little tricky. I don't think it's that crazy. It's just, again, it's something new. And if the camera work stinks here, or if I'm talking too fast or not being clear, all these things, there's Khan Academy videos, there's Mr. Clifford videos, plenty of other stuff that you can get this stuff from or go over with other videos. Okay. So the first ditto I'm going to go over with you is the one that says labor supply and the wage rate. A labor supply and the wage rate. So this we've kind of done before. All right. So again, in this case, anything with money always goes on the y-axis, right? So in this case, it's not price, it's wage. What people are making. And quantity is still quantity, but now it's not quantity of a product. Now it's quantity of hours of labor, number of workers, whatever, some kind of labor, right? So if I'm demanding labor, right? If that labor costs me ridiculous amount, $500 an hour, I'm not going to demand very much. If that labor costs me a little less, I'll demand a little more, a little less, a little more. If that labor costs me very little, I'll demand a whole lot. So therefore, that's my demand curve. As I supply labor, you don't pay me nothing, I'm not going to work a lot. You pay me a little more, I'll work a little more. A little more, a little more. You pay me a lot, I'll work a lot. It's not totally true. There's one weird curve that we'll do later where even as your wage increases, you're not going to work as much, but that's very rarely does it come up. We can do that at the end. I can't imagine they're going to ask you a part 2 question about that. Okay, so what is the actual wage rate in society? Just like anything else, right? It's where X marks the spot. Whatever that is, $10, $20, $12, that's the wage, right? And this is the industry or the market. Okay, so if you're a firm in this market, what are you going to pay your workers? Well, you ain't got no choice, right? You got to pay them that $12. Right? It should be lined up a little better. Sorry, right? You got to pay them the $12, right? Because this is a perfectly competitive labor market, right? If somebody walks in and says, "I'm not taking $12. I'm only working for $20." What happened?
It's blurry.
Okay, is it not blurry now?
No, it's still blurry.
What's blurry?
The camera. Oh, wait, there we go. No. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Fine, yeah.
So if somebody walks in and says, I'm only going to accept $20, you're going to go, get out of town, man. I got plenty of people who are willing to work for $12. And if I say, I'm not letting you work here, I'm only going to hire you at $8, people are going to go, see you later. I'm going to go someplace else because everybody else is giving me $12, right? Now, so what you should be noticing is this sounds just like perfect competition, right? Just as the guy selling his tomatoes has to sell them at the same price everyone else is selling their tomatoes. As the hirer, I have to give exactly the same wage that everybody else is giving. How do I know how many? Okay, so again, we don't want to think of it in terms of regular supply and demand. We want to think about it in terms of why do I hire? And this goes back. This is that first question on the whole sheet, right? As the owner or the manager of a firm, why do I hire labor, right? Or purchase resources, whether it be oil or electricity or fertilizer or whatever. It's because I get something out of it, right? To make my product, and not just to make my product because I like making it, but because I sell it and I get revenue, right? And the demand for that labor or whatever input it is,
It goes blurry again.
all right, then step back. Is it better?
Yeah.
All right, is your regular demand. Okay, for the first unit, I want it a lot. I'm going to pay a lot for it. Next unit, not so much, not so much, not so much. Why? This goes back to diminishing marginal returns. I can't do anything without that first worker. I don't make any pizza. I don't make any steel. I don't make any cars. I don't produce any accounting services, right? I don't make any hockey sticks. I don't make anything. That second worker brings me something, but not as much, because again, diminishing marginal returns to input. I only have so many hockey stick making machines. I only have so many ovens to make my pizza, whatever. The next worker brings me a little less and a little less and a little less and a little less, and that's why we have the downward sloping demand curve for labor, right? So what's important here is that you understand that in the labor market, this demand curve is also your marginal, there's a couple different ways you could say it, marginal factor. I'm sorry, marginal, yeah, no, you can say that. I'm sorry, marginal revenue product. Marginal revenue product. Why do I demand labor? Because additional labor, marginal, gives me more revenue for the product I'm selling. Marginal revenue product. One more worker gets me some revenue because he makes a product, or she. As far as the wage, right? This is the supply of labor, right? And this is your wage or your supply. And this is the one you could say two ways. You could say marginal factor cost, right? That additional factor cost me something. Or you can say marginal resource cost. I tend to go MFC. Again, doesn't matter. They'll accept both on the exam. Marginal resource cost or marginal factor cost. Again, this is a perfectly competitive labor market. Whatever's out there, the going wage rate is, that's the wage rate I got to give as the individual firm. So side by side, just like you did supply and demand in a perfectly competitive market versus the firm, market, firm, right? So perfectly elastic supply here instead of perfectly elastic demand. Same thing. Okay? Now, so in perfectly competitive labor or resource markets, again, it's always usually going to be labor. They could give it to you as seeds, grain, whatever. It doesn't matter labor hours or number of workers or whatever. That means that in a perfectly competitive labor resource market, firms are what we call wage takers. They can't affect the wage that they're giving. Whatever's out there, they got to give that wage, or else nobody's going to come work for them. What determines that, right? For the actual supply of labor, right? That's really just about the population. How many people are out there working? If there's a whole lot more people, or not that many people, that's going to shift your supply of labor, right? As far as the demand for labor, all right, that's a little bit more important. First, it's the number of firms, right? If there's 2 pizzerias, you don't need that many pizza cooks. If there's 5 pizzerias, you need more pizza chefs, cooks, whatever. It's also about what those workers actually produce. So it's about their marginal revenue product, right? And that can change in 2 different ways, right? Either your pizza cooks become more efficient. They go and they train and they practice and they flip that dough even faster. So one pizza guy who used to be able to only make 2 pizzas an hour, now he can make 5 pizzas an hour, right? So the worker themselves gets more productive, or the price I'm getting for my pizza goes up, right? So now one chef used to be able to make me 2 pizzas and that got me $20. But now people like pizza so much, now one chef makes the same amount of pizza, but now it gets me $40. So if I can increase my marginal revenue product, either by my workers get better at what they're doing, or the price of my product goes up, right? Either way, I have more demand for those workers. Okay? Questions? No, you can't talk to me, so good. Now, that again, that's perfectly competitive labor market, right? Life is not always perfectly competitive. If you live in a small town, right, and basically the only place that's hiring is Walmart. If you want to work, you're working at Walmart. That's not perfectly competitive. Walmart can decide that they're going to offer you less money. What happened?
Nothing.
Okay. If you live in a small town in Pennsylvania and the steel mill or the coal mine in West Virginia is the only place you can work, right? If that's the case, right, that's called a monopsony. It's the reverse of a monopoly, right? Monopoly is a seller, one seller. Monopsony, one buyer, right? So you could also think of like, Rockefeller or Carnegie or some of these guys who were like the only ones using the railroads. They were using the railroads so much back in the day that they could control their prices, right? In that case, again, we call that a monopsony. Sounds like it's a made-up word. Because they never made a board game about monopsony. They only made one about monopoly. Oh, got a chuckle. Okay, so in that case, what's different here? Again, this is your wage rate. This is your quantity of labor. Right, we're almost done, pal. And I really appreciate you doing this. If you're really good, I'll take you to your friend's house later. You don't want to go?
No. Oh my god.
Okay, so here's your supply of labor. But here's the difference. Now think about this from the aspect of monopolies, right? Monopoly, I want to sell one more, got to lower the price, but I can't just lower it for the next consumer. I got to lower it on everybody. So here, if I want to hire one more worker, right, I got to give him a little bit more money. But I can't just give it to him, right? Because then what are all the other workers going to say? Hey man, you giving him more money? I got to give more money too. So that means that your marginal factor cost, and again, that could be marginal resource cost, falls above the supply curve. So what you notice is, think about marginal revenue and demand and monopoly, and just flip it, right? Flip it up. Here's your supply. Don't flip the camera. Here's your supply. Marginal factor cost, marginal resource cost falls above, or is above, right? So as you're filling in your sheet, right? What does the firm do or have to do to hire one additional worker? You got to pay more, but then you need to pay all those other workers more. Okay, so what does that mean? That your marginal factor cost in relation to the supply curve is above, right? So now, again, think about it logically. What is this firm going to do? Well, they still demand labor, right? Because that labor provides what? Marginal revenue product, right? I'm hiring labor because they do something for me. But now I got some control. So in a perfectly competitive market, I got to give them whatever that wage rate is. But it's not perfectly competitive. I got some power, right? So just like the monopoly jacks the price up, what's a monopsony going to do? I don't want to pay you. I'm going to drop the price down. There you go, Logue. You're getting it. Sixth grader. There we go. So here is how many workers I'm going to hire. That's still your sweet spot, all right? Marginal revenue product, marginal resource cost, same thing, MC equals MR. That's still my magic spot as far as quantity goes. That's how many laborers I'm going to hire. But again, I got some power. How far can I drop my price of paying these laborers until they're not willing to supply it anymore? I can drop my price down here. So again, think about it. Monopoly, jack my price up as high as I can till I hit demand. Monopsony, drop my price of labor down as far as I can to here. And that's going to be my wage. Okay, so perfectly competitive labor market wage, right? Wage in a monopsony. Perfectly competitive labor quantity here, monopsony quantity. Okay, so again, just think about it, guys. Monopoly, higher price and lower quantity than in a perfectly competitive market. Here, lower quantity of labor at a lower price. Okay, so here you're a wage seeker or a wage maker. You can say, add whatever word you want. So the firms will hire less labor, fewer workers, at higher wages. Okay, next sheet, and then we're done. I know. I'm still mad at you for showing them our Your mother's gonna kill you when she knows our garage.
Don't tell her.
We have no secrets. It's a trust circle, not a trust triangle. We've been watching the show Psych. It's a great show. You should check it out. Okay, so regulating monopoly. We talked about ways of monopsony. We talked about ways. That means come this way. We talked about ways to regulate the monopoly, right? Different ideas. You could set the price for a fair return. You could set it equal to socially optimal. Give them subsidies. Blah blah blah. A couple different things you could do for a monopsony. Okay, union strategies. One thing is called the enhancement strategy, right? How do you make the labor or the buyers of labor want you more? We already said that. I said that a second ago, right? Either you get the price of the product to go up, right? Make people want whatever you do more, so that there'll be more demand for you who makes that thing, right? If you want more money as the pizza chef, make people want pizza more. The price of the pizza will go up. They'll have to pay you more. Okay, or you make your workers better. Be a better pizza chef. You'll get better money, and that goes for making hockey sticks, being a teacher. Well, maybe not being a teacher because of state and all that, but I hope you get the idea. So that's enhancement strategy. Then you have the exclusive union model, right? Which means basically it's just the idea of unions, right? You make it harder, right, if you want electricians to get more money, make it harder to become an electrician, right? That way, you make entry into the labor pool more difficult, but that comes with a trade-off, right? So the people who do get to become electricians make more money, but there's just fewer of them. Or you do collective bargaining, and that's where you're, negotiating. You know this from American history. And you can negotiate whatever you want. If you want more rights over hiring and firing, if you want to give up a little bit of salary for more safety precautions, things like that, that's all collective bargaining. That's how you end up with things like tenure. That's how people like me get excessed, because there's other teachers who have just been there longer, even though they're maybe not the best teachers, and they get to keep their jobs, and I have to go teach at a Jewish yeshiva for a year. It happens. At least I'm not bitter, right? Okay. But they all have the same effect. You're basically making the wage maker, right, into more of a wage taker, a little bit more. What does it mean if they're effective? All right, just be careful with that. For a policy like this to be effective, it doesn't mean that it makes things perfect. It just means that it has an impact. It doesn't mean that it's the best thing, and it doesn't mean that it's perfect. Okay? So, just like Mr. Clifford always says, I want you to take a minute, pause the video, not you. I mean, not the cameraman, you at home. Pause the video and answer those questions. 30 seconds, 40 seconds, I don't know, whatever. Do it. Mr. Clifford likes to dance. I'm not in a dancing mood. I'm going to have another sip of my beverage. Clear my throat. I don't feel like drawing all this. If anybody needs me to, I will. All right, stop. If anybody needs me to, I will. But just follow along, and hopefully we can get it. Because I don't know if we don't think that we can pause the video and pick it right back up. Okay. Hopefully you've done it by now. So with no regulation, how many work? I better actually draw this. Well, tell them a story while I draw this. Best goal you ever scored in hockey. He's very talkative. Yeah. Okay, so again, this is your. Why do you demand labor? Because it's giving you revenue. So that's your marginal revenue product, right? Your labor supply is here. And in order to get more workers, you have to give them more money, marginal factor cost. Each additional worker, you got to give a little bit more, but you got to give more to everybody before that. So in a perfectly competitive labor market, that's going to be your price and quantity. They don't even give them to you here. All right, so don't even worry about it. What this firm is going to do, because they're a monopsony and they have power, is they're going to give a wage rate of 4 with no regulation. Oh, no, I'm sorry, they're not. That is where they're going to hire at. So their quantity is going to be, and they give it to you here is what? L2. So let me do quantity of labor down here. That's L2. But they're not going to give you that price of W4, right? They're going to drop it as low as they can. How low can they drop it to here, which would be wage 1. Okay, so there's your first answer, right? They're going to restrict, perfectly competitive would be here. They're going to drop the number of workers down to L2, and they're going to drop the price to W1. Okay, if we had, again, if we said there's a floor, right? You can't go any lower. What stops me? What are you doing?
Showing the floor.
Oh, thank you. What stops you from going lower?